I think everyone has the same 90 days starting from today. We all know that some people will be up and running in the next 90 days, whereas others will dabble. We've talked about the emotional foundations. Now let's move on to the more tactical side of things and really the actions and steps that you need to take in that first 90 days. So what steps would you recommend for listeners to take in that first 90 days of starting a dropshipping business? Sure. So the 90 days that you first begin from, if we say today is day one, over the next 90 days, it can be perceived as a very short amount of time if you end up going down distraction rabbit holes and getting sidetracked by things. And before you know it, you're at 90 days and you haven't really achieved anything. Or it can be it can seem like a very long amount of time because you've got so much done in that time. I can't believe how much we've accomplished in just 90 days. And everyone gets the same 90 days, but it all depends how you approach it. When we see people dive into trying to learn by doing, and they say, I'm just going to kind of jump in, build a store, make the mistakes as I go, venturing down the different YouTube avenues and rabbit holes with the different conflicting business models, where 1 minute they're running TikTok ads and influencer shout out ads, and they're selling low ticket products, and then they've signed a new supplier, and then they try print on demand, and then it's like, these models, whilst they all work in their own right, they conflict with each other, and we see people tie themselves in knots very quickly, and they get tangled in this mess of mixed business models. And what that results to is that obviously it means that like products are taking a long time to be delivered, so customers are then unhappy, and then they're buying a cheaper version of the same item from elsewhere and leaving bad reviews and all that kind of stuff. But it means that the entrepreneur at the end of it often writes off the whole kind of business model because they applied different parts of it from different models that just didn't make sense with each other. So what we see the most successful people do with this, and we see this time and time again, is before they even dive into anything, they zoom out and they look at it from above and they say, okay, what have others done here and what can I learn from, and how can I model their path to get results? So they don't necessarily have any experience with e-commerce. That's not their advantage. So don't feel that if you don't have experience, you're at a disadvantage. It's not that they have experience. It's that they know that others' success will have left clues that they can then follow. That's the difference. And you can apply this to any aspect of life. So for example, they might follow a product research system that validates the products that they're going to build their store around. And then they have a niche store that they can build their store successfully before they even start running ads, knowing that it's going to work. And that way the whole thing is congruent because it's backed on data. They didn't just dive into building a store. And when it comes to signing suppliers, they already know the suppliers are happy to dropship with this model because they pre-validated that niche ahead of time. And one of the validation points was, are there dropshipping suppliers in that niche? And are they high ticket? And do they do fast delivery? So you can see how it would be very easy to see a flashy thumbnail on a YouTube video and go off down that route because someone says that you can get suppliers signed up really easily, and then it comes out later that they take 15 days to be delivered, and when they are, they're really low quality, and you kind of end up like locked in to part of a business model that doesn't really fit the other parts, and so you have this like Frankenstein business that doesn't quite connect. And so we did a behind the scenes video recently where I did this myself. I started a new high ticket dropshipping store from scratch, chose the niche, built the store, began the process of contacting and signing up those suppliers. And we released it on the Dropship Unlocked YouTube channel. So we can link that below in the show notes, because that's probably quite a valuable journey to watch, where if you're looking for a straightforward kind of A to Z route without the different shiny objects and going off on tangents, that really is it, start to finish. And I've never seen anyone do that before. That's kind of why I created it. So ultimately, the people that we see succeed again and again have some common traits, some common attributes. They're patient, they are persistent, they come into it with a positive mindset, and they are like a sponge. They are just absorbing information because they know that it's a marathon ultimately, not a sprint in business, and they're willing to defer their satisfaction or delay their gratification. And they know that by doing that, it will last a much longer time once they're up and running,
but most of all, they enjoy the journey as they go. That's the key.
Yeah, and they're really common traits that we see in the most successful people. So you can just realize what other people have done, what other mindset, what other steps they've taken, and just replicate that and see the same success. And oftentimes when you look back at the journeys of people that have been most successful, you see that every step that they took was crucial for the next step. So they always got something in place initially, like the steps you've just been through there, Lewis. They had the niche chosen that they knew was going to be profitable for their e-commerce business. Then they use that to build a store. Then they use that store to then sign suppliers. And then once they've signed suppliers, they start running ads to those products. And each step follows the next. And obviously you perfectly laid that out in that YouTube series that you've released, which we'll definitely link in the description below. So now that you've been through this list and you've taken the actions for the crucial first 90 days, can you share some tips that you would advise for people that are going to go through that first 90 days?
Absolutely. So if you can model what the people we see get success time and time again are doing, there's a high likelihood that you'll also see that same result, because they're clearly not getting these results by chance, because they're succeeding in multiple sectors. So if you try to zoom out like they do, and like I mentioned, take a top-down view before you dive in and get your hands dirty and roll up your sleeves and start doing things. I'm guilty of this as well. I like doing. I like diving in and doing, but sometimes taking a more strategic view of things. And if you think of the other things that you've succeeded in life, it's nearly always because there was a proven path for you to do it and that you could follow. There are no medals or trophies handed out to people who go it alone with no support in business. It's not, there's no reward for it. In fact, it's actually less enjoyable, if anything, because it's much harder. You don't have anyone there to share ideas with or bounce ideas off, and you have no one around you who understands what you're doing to celebrate that with. That's why community is everything. So I think everyone has the same 90 days starting from today. We all know that some people will be up and running in the next 90 days, whereas others will dabble. They'll get distracted by different models, by shiny objects. They'll end up with this mixed kind of conflicting business model mess that's all put together, and then it will result in them achieving very little over the next 90 days other than wasting a lot of time and energy and money. And then they'll either quit, as they'll just say, oh, it didn't work, or the cycle starts all over again. And they say, okay, in the next 90 days, I'm going to do it. And then they do the same again. So it's like that. You have to learn from mistakes. And if you've ever felt like that in the past, where you're just like, you're so busy being busy with trying to start a business, but you feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels and is it really inefficient? Try and zoom right out and like disconnect yourself emotionally from the process and just observe what others are doing. And if there is a strategy that you can follow, don't try to reinvent the wheel. That's what we see successful people doing all around us, is that they look for where something's working, then they surround themselves with others in a community of like-minded people. And then once they have the strategy, they take direct action, incremental actions day by day. And those are the people that will be up and running and making sales within 90 days from today. So the 90-day timer starts right now. Today is officially day one, but it's up to you to decide where you will be in 90 days from today. Which of those two groups will you fall into?
I love that frame. I love the frame that today can be anyone's day one on this journey. After listening to this episode, you can make it day one and you can look into the future 3 months, pick out day 90 in 3 months' time, and realize that between now and then, you can have everything up and running so that you've got a dropshipping business that's long-term that will be making sales already. So Lewis, for someone who's decided that today is going to be their day one, they're definitely going to go along this journey. And unfortunately, the majority of people, they don't do this. But for those who are really serious, that really do want to make today day one, what is the first critical action that they need to take to get started on the right foot?
Yeah, so I want to make this as actionable as possible, because I don't like abstract concepts that you can't apply. But I spoke about that zooming out and looking at the big picture strategy and following a proven process. So whilst there are many models out there that work, we talked about all of the different like print on demand, low ticket, Amazon FBA, all these different things. They do all work in their own right. But if you're interested in the model that we use and hundreds of our successful Dropship Unlocked members will use, then the way to zoom out and see the big picture and follow the blueprint is I've documented it all inside my step-by-step book, The Home Turf advantage. So you can grab a copy of that at htabook.com. You can pick that up today. You could be reading that immediately on day one of your 90. And after the next 90 days, if you follow every single step in that book, you block out the distractions, you don't get distracted or sidetracked by other shiny objects out there all trying to vie for your attention, you will dramatically increase your chances of success by applying that proven business model.